Hi, Athens. This is Nan Michael welcoming you to Kaleidoscope. Jane Penwell is still on the run. I think maybe she's out in Nevada now, or New Mexico, but she'll be back. She's just on a vacation. And she says she'll be back with Kaleidoscope and take over the reins again in January. Today, we're going to take respectful note of the passing of Joy Lindskold. Joy, you've seen often on the Poetry Nook, and to start out, I'm going to read a couple of her poems, and then we get to see her from the past reading a couple of hers. Joy died October the 13th. She was 88, and she was a pistol. When she died, her family were holding her hands, which sounds very loving. First poem of Joy's that I'm going to read is the Buddha and Me. She and her husband, Sven, both put out an annual poetry booklet to give to friends, and some were given to the library also. And the first I'm going to read is Politicos. Strange bedfellows, these politicos, crowded into bombastic debates, always force me to remember all the shortcomings of the human race. The second poem I'm going to read is called Supper, written November the 14th, 2015. Tonight with my supper, as I sipped a glass of red wine, I thought of the citizens of Paris who on Friday suffered death and terror at the hands of barbarians. In a cafe window somewhere in Montmartre, pictures taken through a shattered window showed a glass of wine left by the patron as he or she sought safety or died during the terrible assault on Paris's citizens. The making of wine, the planting of the vines, the time of cultivation, eventually producing grapes which once picked can be processed and fermented into the beginnings of a vintage. The shooters and bombers cannot produce the wine we shared. They are destroyers. I ask myself, what did we do? You, I, the doctors, the playwrights, the artists, the farmers, the school children, what did we do that allowed these criminals to invade our cities, blow our planes out of the air, behead our innocents? And the next one is called The Buddha and Me. Worse things could befall me than spending my life sitting under a tree. Its selection, however, leaves me in a quandary. This tree or that tree? A long-time mystery. A mango tree would offer fruit, visitors aplenty, bumblebees, smells of high degree. A mighty banyan tree would shelter me from rain, where there is never any snow. Birds, monkeys, small creatures choose its fruit and seek its shelter. Never would I select a palm, as rats and I don't exist in harmony. While I slept, they would nibble toes or a nose. One tree would serve my need, for color if not for leaf, the flamboyant tree. Maybe the Buddha did not know of its glory. Together we could sit in the dappled shade while red petals caressed us as they fell into our laps. And we will go to the Poet's Nook, and Joy Lindskold reading some of her poetry.
My president in the land of cha-cha-cha. Jose Marti, poet and revolutionary, once fled the shores of his country to speak of their need for freedom. Today, my president lands in Cuba at an airport named for the poet. Still not free, still oppressed by outmoded regimes, my president smiles, holds out his hand, a man of peace. I hope he sees the grace and interest in the faces and the crowds. I hope he hears the music, sees the lush landscape, smells the multiple flowers. He brought his family. The fascist previous generals and leaders fled when they saw they could no longer hold back the urge for freedom. Unfortunately, the new dictators were no better. Now Miami teams with these ill speakers of my president. They want back what they think they lost at almost any cost. But small steps are better than no steps. He brings hope. Cha-cha-cha. Whiskey. Our visitor and my husband chose the aged bourbon. I picked the añejo. We sat talking of happenings since his last visit. He, making a trip to cure himself of 6 weeks, 6 times a week, being blasted by all the fires of all the suns. Somewhat sad, like having seen his name in the obituary column, he spoke of children, ex-wives, and what to do now. The smooth liquor eased the tales and added a pause to remember other times, other places. My silvery liquid, aged in even older barrels used for their bourbon, offered music, flutes, horns, guitars. To them, maybe the bluegrass, heavy with American twangs. It grew dark, the soup was ready. Our friend left the next day, taking the long way home, driving through Upper Michigan, trying to rid himself of the memory of white coats and sterile surroundings. The liquors will be even older on his next visit.
Alex Ross did videotaping for this show, and I'm very appreciative for it. And the first skit that she, video that she videotaped was the bunny hop. Maybe you saw it in the paper advertised. It was in Nelsonville, and people were invited to bring their pet rabbits, and they would be taught to bunny hop. I don't think that I put on the tape that it was sponsored by such car, and some of these bunnies are for adoption, and to adopt one you call such car, and it's in the phone book, I'm sure. I don't have it on hand, but I took out the sound because it was disconcerting. I don't think there's any sound on it, but those bunnies went to town, and so enjoy.
Available for adoption? Available. Ah. Those red eyes. It's a long hair, hey?
Yeah, he's kind of part lion head, I think.
Oh.
However one it is.
You checking it out? Did I do okay, Sam? Come on. Come on. Keep going.
Yeah, probably.
You got no harness on today. You've been a bad one, huh?
That's awesome that, we're not sassy then.
Come on.
Not just,
Keep going. They want to see you move. I know none of this is to stretch your legs, but yeah. That you cheater.
That's it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Go, coach. Will you do the jump for me? In the middle?
So, I mean, that should be.
I want you to do that.
For him.
Right through here. This is, no, I want you to do this.
Well, yeah.
Right there. Yeah, thank you.
It's testosterone.
That's what I want.
It's wide open and a chair sitting in front of it, so it's propped up, and the rabbit's running around. So I think somebody went to the barn and scooped herself and she had a heart attack or whatever, because there was nothing left there. Yeah, so I moved everybody into the shelter space in the house.
There's no land challenging for him.
all that time.
He'll just run it.
So, Ben would.
You look around?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're sitting there, and I had Ben would come in from the rec, so I left out there. So I'm just
Stand there, but you're good.
That's weird, but I think much of it, and then all of a sudden, pack it down.
Little rabbit foo-foo.
And I was like,
Everybody.
okay, that one, we reached out, but we're not quite broken yet.
Yeah.
So I guess he's a lot for getting him back in. Actually, I figured out we're waiting for our Halligan's.
I don't want to run.
Because the other side of the day. Luckily, it was mealtime.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. It's almost so much stuff, but I need you to bring the harness before I do the harness. You like that, huh, Belgium? As long as you stay on the mat, you get to run, huh? Belgium? No.
Testing. Testing governor.
All the bunnies that have been in training for a lot of years just smear.
He does.
Smear on her.
Everything. Huh. You're gonna be an ornery bunny, huh?
He doesn't go in the circle. He
Is
goes to
Patricia making it?
It's kind of neat how they like to kind of sniff it first.
Well, and the
I
thing
think
is
she said
if
that
other
they're
animals, if, like,
Wow.
if you, I want you to go this way, I want you to go this way. Go on, go this way.
And Johnson was coming to
That's pretty good. He's doing so good.
He will. My daughter can walk beside him and get him. Nope, this way. You're not going the direction I asked you to go.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing another challenge.
Yes, I am.
And I was like, listen.
So later on, we'll put up higher jumps for him. He's been doing this a while too. This is just hey, get out and stretch my legs. I get to run. I just want them to know that they have to stop at the edge of the mats before we go doing anything.
She's got two of them.
Okay. Hey, can I pick you up now? Will you let me catch you? Aha. Aha. I know, I let you out, huh? You like to run, huh? All right. She's a mini Rex. You don't hold her like that. She's gonna freak out on you. Do you want to see if she'll run for you? Okay. Charge, not her. So don't walk you around. Well, go from the other side. Yeah, go this way. And yes, and get her to go. You have to be the boss. If I wash you around, you're gonna be in trouble later. She says no. She can go that way if that's okay. You just keep following her, don't. She's lost. He has not figured out how to boss her yet. Well, no, it's not that she can't jump. The problem with rabbits is not that they can't jump. The problem is can you stop them when you need to? When you're caught or they're caught, can you get them to stop without them getting hurt? Because unfortunately, you can put a 3-foot wall in front of them. If they want on the other side, they're over. Period. The end. It doesn't matter what breed of rabbit it is. However, to get them on a course, to have them run straight down the course, have nothing on the side startle them, that's where the training comes in. And she's just started her training, and to have them not turn around and go backwards over a jump, because that's not allowed. But she heard me. And
So they can be distracted.
Very easily, very easily. So when we have, because like in our county we do this regularly, we have competition every year. We do noise aversion training, which generally means please talk as loud as possible the entire time we're working. And if somebody can't hear you, yell a little louder.
Bring somebody with 2-year-olds.
Bring toddlers.
I was thinking of bringing Garmin.
When we're at the fairgrounds, they'll run 4-wheelers through, and I'm like, don't tell them they can't. In fact, bring them. Don't be a barrier, because you get on the fairgrounds, and the first time the PA system cracks,
Yes.
you've lost your rabbits, literally. And if they're on the ground on a harness and lead, and they panic, you can have an injury. So if you haven't noise aversion trained them, there can be problems. So I always tell kids, I'm like, bring whatever, If you come late, come in loud, please. Come in loud. Bring your car in loud, because we practice outside. So, and she likes people, so that's why she's.
Well, it looks like you're getting a workout too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing rabbit hopping, generally you spend a lot of your time bent over.
You're doing well.
She's, and considering that she's
Got a
just.
money shot here.
Did you? Good. Good job, Frank.
Yeah, is that, how old is that rabbit?
She's over a year old, but she just started hopping this summer.
But she's very young. Just over a year old.
Rabbit age, not really.
Yeah.
She's a little older, because you can't catch her. You have to let her go and hope that you can catch her on the other side. And she does that to him a lot. That.
Cute.
She's like, what do you want, Frank?
I want you to go that way.
It moves. Okay, how about this? How about if I lower it just a little bit for her? Slide it down, just slide it. Slide it down the thing. Okay, now try and get her to go through it. They said, this is one where you've got her off the lead. She says no. Can we tell who's the boss in this relationship? It's not him. It's not the boss.
Go. I will make you go.
She's gonna go up you. Okay, pick her back up. Got her. Okay, put her back for a little bit. You get somebody else out if you want to run. Do usually the neck first to check it. This is a little loose on her, but it doesn't go any tighter. Okay, you want to at least be able to get 2 fingers underneath of it between, and then do the same thing on your. That might be bigger than.
Develop a complex.
That's okay. I have harnesses that are just for Rhinelanders, I promise. I'm just stealing this one because I didn't want to put the Bucks one on you. You might not like how it smells.
So is that one more snug or same kind of thing?
You want them to have movement,
Okay.
but you don't want it to roll off their shoulders. So like now it's a little too loose in here because the goal is that when we run them, we use this is stop and this is go. That's our signals, okay? So you want this to not slide when you've got them in go. That's how we judge on this. So this right here, I loosened it. It's too loose. The necks are very hard to find. This is a cat harness. And for some reason, I don't know, cats have fat necks compared to rabbits. So it doesn't fit, as well on these guys. As long as you can get your fingers underneath of here, it's not too tight. But like I said, you want it to stay rather than rock from side to side. And this is her first time, so whenever I get one of them in their harness the first time, I'll set them on the table, put them in the harness, and then I just do this for as long as they'll let me. I let them hang out, and I walk around with them. I have been at rabbit shows, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Harness training. I just need them out in public where there's a bunch of noise, and the exhibitors are yelling, and the PA system's going off, and they're like, oh, okay." I'm like, "I'm just harness training." It's just they've got to be able to realize that they're not going to get hurt in the harness, that it's okay. I know. Girl. Yeah. That it's okay to have the harness and to let somebody handle you while you're in the harness. And she's only 4 months old.
Oh, wow.
She's gonna be a beast, huh? Yes, her.
Have I done a competition yet?
Okay, George. This should fit him. You should be able to just put it right on him. George, keep your butt on here. Don't fall off.
I think that there's also one in Lancaster in November, but yeah, those are not the closest we get that happens.
So these kind of competitions, are they timed or?
Yes. Usually it's a straight line or a U shape, and it's a competition. When we're doing demonstrations, we want to be able to make sure that everybody can see as much as possible. And so we just went ahead and set it up as a square and put them that way.
Where would be the closest competition?
In Columbus. Unless you've got local ones. Now there is a club in Wayne County.
Okay.
It's Wayne, I think it's High Flyers.
Yeah.
That's Kaleidoscope. Are you losing my racket?
George. Stop this, George.
Did you lose George?
Yeah, whenever.
Did you put your hand under his chin?
Yeah.
He doesn't like that.
I can tell. I can really tell.
You're hooked, aren't you?
No, he's flipped.
Oh. Okay, here, hold her. Okay. You got her? You got her? She is big. George, don't give the boy a hard time. He is molting something fierce. Look, there, it's done. Look, there, it's done. Give me back the girl.
There you go. There's Kate.
Hi, Kate. Okay, put him on the lead, please. Why don't you wait? Yeah, he can jump that. It's just, he's cheating. Okay, Frankie, turn him around and go the other direction.
He climbed that.
He did climb that. Turn him around and go the other direction. Just say, "George, I want you to go this way." Okay, go that way, George. Now he'll jump that. Because he can reach over that. It's just whether he will or not. Because he's climbing from the wrong side, the other way.
Why you had the whiteboard on that?
Well, because this starts at 6 instead of 4. And they have panels in some events, which what they do is, if they've got jumps that are high, like 18 inches, they'll do a panel at 6 and at 10 and at 16, and then put a bar at the top so that they don't have to have bars the entire way. If there's an opening, they'll go under it. I don't care how high the opening is. If it's at 6 inches and there's nothing under it, they're under it.
Yeah.
Every time. So it's just, and seriously, the panel that we used, it's coordinated. It's not, it's not anything that when they hit it, you're going to have to work, because that's part of your thing too. You want to make sure that everything, If they bump into it, then it'll fall off when they hit it. If whoever's handling the rabbit, if they get the lead tangled around the top of the pole, it should fall over.
Remember Patrick with his treats?
Yeah. Look at him, he's like, oh, am I supposed to stop here and pose? You gonna pose for him? Yeah, the shortest jump right now, and that's where he stops. So, okay. And they really want us to have a good 6 to 8 feet between jumps. So this is a hard, I mean, there's 6 between them, but this is a hard area to get any real height on it. However, most of ours will just walk up to it and stand in front of it and then jump straight over it anyhow. And then if it's, you know, a 10, 12-inch jump.
They'll just walk. Some of them will just walk over it.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, he's not even trying.
No.
Okay. And one of the things we try to tell everybody is we want to watch, because I'm not sure what your hip to shoulder ratio is on that one. You want to watch if they end up with a really huge loin, it's going to land on your shoulders. So that's a lot of weight. So you want to keep an eye on your hip to shoulder ratio and whatever animal you use for hopping, that it doesn't end up too large on the hips. Because if they put on too much even muscle mass back there, they're going to be landing all that on their shoulders. It's okay as long as the shoulders stay big. But if the ratio changes too much, then you're going to have possible injuries just from the sheer weight landing on the front as they're doing ducks. And I know that Colleen, when she does it, she actually has a class, and I don't remember what she calls it, but she said most of the animals in that class are commercial breeds, because they're narrow in the shoulders, wider in the hips. Kids still want to hop them, and they just keep the jumps really up. They don't go any higher than 10 inches. So like everything is under 10, you know, they can still have a fun competition, but it's not something like what you would do with an English squat that, you know, you can put on there. Are you going to put it through the hoop? It's not like he has to do anything to get through the hoop. He just has to step. There. Literally. Yeah, I did. You asked me to step, I stepped. I'm going to slide it up for him. He'll probably try and go under it though, so you're going to have to convince him to go over it. Where are you going, George? As long as you stay on the mat, you're allowed. And they run much better when you don't hold them.
Yeah.
I can tell everybody, from the 3 years we spent working with them, the tighter you are on the lead, the slower they go. They're like, oh, you're making me slow.
They're like, wait.
Go over it. There you go.
I'm gonna have to walk it now.
Well, don't walk it, just. Okay.
Does he know how to go?
Well, he knows how to do it, so he'll do it. He may or may not. Move your arms so he'll go up and over. He'll figure it out. He'll either figure it out or he won't do it. Right now he goes not. He says no. You got not.
I say go.
Nope. I think he's done. He might be done.
Mercury.
And also Venus.
Venus is her sister. You gonna check it out? The boys have been here. The sad thing is if it's a low jump, they'll just go, I don't know, I don't have to try. Are you gonna go over it or are you just gonna hang out? I don't remember which one you are, which way. My sister trained the pair of them, and one of them clicks. And the other one, she makes another noise, because she does horses. So she trained them with horse noises, and I'm like, I don't know which one is which, so I never get it right. Wait. No. Did you see Frank? You don't need Wi-Fi, frankly. In this small of an area, you get busy too. Huh? Okay, I'm gonna pick you up. To that number.
So in competitions, they keep raising the bar.
They keep raising bars.
Yeah.
6 to 10 inches, and then the next group is 12 to 14 inches. And then the next time it's 16 to... So they keep raising the height. They won't, sometimes they won't raise all of them, but like the rules say that you have to have, in the beginning, you have to have at least 3 that are 8 inches high in your first.
Sounds like
She's a little more laid back. Not that she won't run the course, but you know. Rhinelanders is where you tend to be a little more laid back. You get a spot out there and they're like, holy crap, I get to run. And so then you're dealing with, holy crap, I get to run.
28 inches, that's right.
This one right here is like anything that they've ever been on.
Yeah.
And then you just stand there and let them walk around. And let them move, whatever direction it wants to go right now. Because right now this is all about, will I actually move? That English spot, when she brought him home, she put him on the harness and he laid for 3 days. She cried. I was like, seriously? She's like, he's not going to move. I can do a demonstration and stay there. And he won't move. So you just put him on the mats and let them get used to it. Once they are used to how the mat feels, our next usual, what we do baby course. We'll have a separate area set off. And it'll just be some mats and it'll be some poles. You just take the poles and lay them flat on the mats.
Okay.
And let them step over the poles. Once they start stepping over the poles, then you add the uprights with no poles and let them walk through the uprights so that they get used to the feel of all of the parts of what's in a hop. They're not. It's not my pattern. It's coverage either or. But it's, like I can't say, oh yeah, this is my pattern, you can have it, go ahead and use it, because it's not. Where is your, there it is.
Might want to do it. I like to grab the lead curve
OTW
so
bunnies.
whenever they like spring off, you put them up your hand, and you'll let them have the lead. And also, if it's too short of one
On you, buddy. Yeah. At least I think this one will fit on you. Yeah, this one will fit on you. Okay. And this one will fit on you. And just like that. And but seriously, it's, you know, in case. That's okay. All right. She needs some exercise. Do you got your harness?
Yes, I'm probably spin on it.
Okay. All right. Now I put harnesses on while people are sitting, but okay. So the first thing, injuries. That's my goal. You see, but you see how much is inflated in here. So now I'm like, I can like really get my hand in there, so you know it's not too tight. Where you start. This is what take him off that. He's not ready yet.
off the lead.
If you're gonna put him up, you are better.
I love that one little spotted bunny that was evidently the star of the whole show. And I couldn't resist doing the last few jumps in slow motion, so that's what was going on there. But I love animals, and I loved that shot. Next on Kaleidoscope is a visit that Alexa and Lois Whaley took to the 22nd annual Little Cities of Black Diamonds Day. And some of those old buildings are really marvelous. They're just, and we see a gentleman potter potting. So this was held Sunday, October the 16th in Shawnee, Ohio.
Yes, ma'am. Just trying to look for trouble.
That's wonderful. Spray some of that dust stuff. Yeah. What do they call that? Roomba or something? All right, so I think you might have heard, my clay is local clay. 98% clay that I use is mined in like a 3-county area around here. And I mix it myself. I also make all my own glazes. This potter's wheel is made in California. I can't do anything about it. This is called the wheel head. Some potters work directly on the wheel head. I like to use really soft clay, which makes it a challenge to work right on the wheel head. So I use these. These are called bats. Those are bat pins. Bat pins lock the bat in place, but it still wiggles a little bit. So I put some clay and some water on the bottom of it, and I stick it down. I leave a little bit of clay on the bat, gives me a target, and also the clay will stick to clay. It doesn't stick so well to plastic, right? Sure. So like this one got all cleaned off, and I had to leave it over here to dry so that I can get the clay to stick to it. A little bit of water on the clay. The first thing I do is push down. And that really sets the clay on the wheel head. It shouldn't come off now. Sometimes it does, but it shouldn't. I squeeze it up into a cone shape. And with my right hand, I push it down against my left hand. So my left hand, with this amount of clay, really doesn't have to move. And this is centering the clay. And what centering the clay does is it makes it so that your piece is nice and flat around the top, right? If I didn't center it, it'd have high spots. By centering the clay, when I was first learning how to do this, I had to do this like 45 times, and it still wasn't centered. And now usually I can do it 3 times, sometimes twice, sometimes 4 times, but usually 3 times I'll do it. Gradually let it go, and this is centered now. Let me check. Yep, that's centered now. So I'm going to open the clay, and I do that by making a little depression in the top. And make sure I got enough water there. Put my thumbs back to back, push straight down into the clay. And I like to leave at least a ½ an inch in the bottom, because the clay shrinks as it dries, so it won't be a ½ an inch after it's done. And also, the work that I do with it on the bottom, I'm going to be taking some of that clay away. So it seems like it's real. ½ an inch seems like a lot, but like if I do this, and if it feels like this finger will pass right underneath that one, that's about a ½ an inch because I have wide fingers. And that was pretty much right on. I'm going to open it up some more now by spreading my thumbs apart on the inside. Usually I've got my hands wrapped around it, but you're here and you wouldn't be able to see it, so like that. Again, let me get this all wet. Now I'm going to push on the bottom I'm doing two things by pushing on the bottom. I'm making the bottom flat, and I'm also compressing it a little bit. I do by pushing on it, push the clay particles closer together. And that is, it makes the bottom stronger, and it makes it less likely to crack as it dries. I'm going to push out from the inside now, and I've got a place right here where it's not as thick as it is up here. So the difference is, like in the narrow place it's like that, and in the thick place it's like that. Keep it wet. And I'm going to lift up. So I lock my fingers the distance apart of the narrow place, and I just lift up. And I'm not pinching in, all right? So I got my fingers that far apart, and I just lift up on it. And I turn that thickness into height. And now I'm going to compress the rim here. I'm holding on to it with this hand and pushing down with the other. Now I'll shape it a little bit to keep the rim a nice shape. By compressing the rim, I'm making it stronger, so it's less likely to chip later. And also helps keep it really round as it dries. Now I'll do the same thing here. And push out from the inside, make a narrow place, and then lift. Did everybody see it jerk a little bit right there? There was a dry place in the clay, and it sort of stuck to me. So I don't know. I don't know if that was bad or not. I'll tell you in a minute. Right there is where it was. And it's just a little bit out of center now. But it survived. All right. Usually when that happens now, what I'll do is I'll make a straight-sided mug. It needs to stay really well centered for me to be able to make this shape. But I can still make a straight-sided mug even though this one's jumped off center. I'm going to do just another lift down here. You'll be able to see right there's where it was off center. The top probably started to wobble when I hit that spot.
How long does it need to dry before you glaze and fire it?
It depends. I can dry it really fast. The fastest is really a couple days. If I dry it any faster than that, it tends to warp. What I do is I make a lot of these shapes at a time, and I wrap them up in plastic and I keep them, and I put handles on them because it takes longer really to make a nice handle and attach the handle than it does to do this part. This is the fun part. So I have to do all that other stuff to get to do more of the fun part. So I've kept them for as much as 3 weeks wet, wrapped up in plastic before I got handles put on them. So, but 2 days is a minimum dry time before I can put it in the kiln. If I dry it any faster than that, it tends to warp or crack. So this little piece of plastic, I use this here at the end to polish the rim. There's some really coarse particles in the clay when I get it, and what the plastic does is it pushes the coarse particles down in among the finer ones to give the rim a nice polish. And I'll take this sponge now and fold it up. And so there's some excess water down there. Dry off the outside. Then now going real slow like this is when I can add some more texture. And this is just a piece of string. Normally I have a tool called a wire tool, but I got here today and didn't have one. So I got some string. I'm going to use that to cut this off. It used to be longer, but the other half of it's down there.
Wow.
So that's how that goes.
Very good.
It's really, really soft, and it doesn't take as much arm strength or finger strength, to use a soft clay.
What is your name?
Dale. Dale Haig. Haig like the city. The Haig.
Do you live here?
I live in East Fultonham, which is 18 miles north of here. It's east of West Fultonham. It's east of Fultonham.
So
we're really trying to protect that kind of stuff, and that's what we're here for. But you've got some people stream restoration, they've got people all around the country who do different things.
Apple stuff, you want to...
No, they're $20, I'm sorry. $20 with tax, it would be $21.25. Sorry about that. Need change, I can. If not, we do take debit. Art products.
I got.
Excuse me, sir.
Maybe 2.5, so I did pretty damn good with it.
But it's not historically accurate.
See?
That's why Cheryl to watch over the place when she they're out in Sunday Creek.
I have been here for this 5 years.
Yes.
She shows things on Channel 9 in Heaven.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Oh, are we filming right now?
Yes.
Would you like to sample some of my wonderful exotic fabrics? It's actually New Straitsville moonshine. The devil's brew! Don't say anything out loud. The marshal's about, and I don't want to get caught.
Okay.
You know, Jesus and the disciples drank in the Bible, didn't they?
Well, sure.
If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me.
The devil's brew.
He sells to men that are running around on their wives.
Shame.
What have I started?
Baby's mouths, I see, as always.
What?
And
Is this the real McCoy?
Yep, I just shut it off so it can cool off.
Oh. What's happening right there?
I just shut it down.
Cooling barrel. Booze.
Make sure you vote for your favorite quote all the way on that back table.
Not necessary.
Oh, that's true, huh?
Take a picture of the whole road too.
I need to stir them up, they might be cold.
Okay.
And the cornbread's in the big bowl right there.
Good day for a nap.
And it didn't work. So we finally, and he wouldn't let me have a third one because he's a conservative person. Although he's a nice printer, look at that. Whose pen is it?
Are you?
Oh, Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I'll leave it here if it goes back.
We'll see you Wednesday night.
Okay, so then he explained to me that that's the spacing, because look at here, I was gonna add another space. Oh, here. I added a space.
Oh,
you can't do
that.
Who breaks the rules?
She's with the template. Sorry.
I thought I'd finish out the show today by reading one more of Joy's poems. Joy was a fireball. She was intelligent, and she had humor and vivacious, and an artist, and many wonderful things. And some of her poetry could be a little heavy. So if you're not into heavy poetry, we'll see you next week. Otherwise, I'm going to read Recycling Nails. Late nights, tired with unknown anxieties, lingering between sleep and awareness. Sometimes the horror of his punishment fills me with pain, and I search for understanding. I ask, who could hammer those heavy nails into the hands and feet of Jesus? What kind of man would perform this torture? No answer comes. To crucify a man for offering hope to many by saying you do not need to suffer poverty, you do not need to live in fear. Is this a crime? The powerful always fear, as do the poor. But the difference is to lose something the poor cannot even guess exists. Once committed to this action, the mighty wash their hands. What more can we actually expect? Then the man is nailed to the beams of solid wood. Pain, death, the question of what did I do wrong may have filled his thoughts. Blood, urine, feces run down the upright beam, mingling with the remains of 100 others. Puddling on the ground, picked at by insects. The stench must have been overwhelming. Days pass. Death comes to all. Let us go forward to another time where small children gather in a classroom to learn how to read. Golden-haired some, funny and charming, expectant, laughter at themselves as learning happens. Then shots from weapons fill the halls. Adults shoot children into corners. But the door of their haven burst open. Suddenly, these beautiful children are blown into waste by a madness they did not and will never understand. Some must have called for a mother, or remembered that he had a peanut butter sandwich for lunch. All met their fate unknowing of what life could offer. Blood, urine, feces mingles on the floor, small bodies twisted by the power of heavy bullets, sprays of blood on blackboards, cheerful cartoon figures taped to bright-colored walls, dripping blood. I want you to come with me. We will study this scene as I have tried to understand his torture. We will try to see what happened here. Walking in blood, we will smell the stench of death. These are 6-year-old children. What price have they paid for our folly? Parents will never feel the child's arms wrapped around their necks. None will be tucked into bed this night. Safe. We are recycling the nails again. These children are hammered into crosses made of guns, weapons of death. The powers that be will wash their hands again. The blood will not wash off this time. I ask you, all of you, who will speak for the children? Did he suffer the torture of the hammered nails in vain? Hope to see you soon. Next week is going to be Halloween footage galore. I'll drive Alex around the neighborhoods and get some of the activities before the Court Street show-offs. So till next week, have a happy Halloween.